You wrote in your recent book, No Going Back, about shooting your dog, Cricket. Of course, the blowback was intense there. Do you think that sharing that anecdote, whether fairly or unfairly, cost you a shot at being his vice president?
You know, I would say that was a story from 20 years ago about me protecting my children.
So who does Kristi Noem think should ride shotgun with Donald Trump? Well, in the end, her, of course. But we all know something about this sick woman. She's too sick even for a guy like Trump, who, even though he feels nothing for anyone or anything, his instinct for self-preservation is such that he appreciates keeping Kristi Noem away is like keeping a cancer at bay. It is June the 24th. 134 days remain until the American people decide who lives in the White House. The great showdown is 3 days away. This is the warning. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, a very, very sick woman, was on Meet the Press this Sunday, talking about her future, her ambitions, and her belief that Donald Trump would be well served by having a woman on the ticket.
There are 3 names now on Donald Trump's shortlist to serve as his vice presidential pick. Yours is not one of them right now. Are you being vetted? Have you received the paperwork?
The only person who knows who the vice president's going to be is Donald Trump.
Have you received the paperwork, though?
No, I haven't received any paperwork. No, I haven't. I've had conversations with the president, and I know that he is the only one who will be making the decisions on who will be his vice president.
You said that having a woman on the ticket would help Donald Trump win, and he said on this program last year that he liked the concept of running with a woman. Only men, as you note, are on his short list right now: Burgum, Vance, Rubio. Would Donald Trump be making a mistake if he does not pick a woman as his running mate?
You know, I think he needs to pick the best person for the job. He needs to help someone, pick someone that will help him win. And I think that President Trump is in a fantastic position to win this election. He's strong. He's right on all the policies. He needs to pick somebody who will help him win and make sure that he's back in the White House fighting for America.
What about this one? Or this one? Or this one? Or this one? No? Yeah, me either. All of these people, Elise Stefanik, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace, all of them are psychologically unfit, morally unfit, mentally unfit for any position of public responsibility whatsoever, let alone to be a heartbeat away from the presidency and in the national command authority. But none of them, not Lauren Boebert, who can't contain herself at a children's play, running for re-election in a new district after being chased out of the first Colorado district, none of them hold a candle to Kristi Noem. She's nuts. Let's talk about that directly. This past weekend, I had to do one of the hardest things that any person who has animals in their life has to do. It comes time sometimes to say goodbye to your dog. My dog's name was Teddy. He was magnificent. I loved him. My kids loved him. Every person who ever met Teddy loved this dog. He would throw his head back, bark a couple of times, and within a minute, he would throw his back into your legs, be sitting on your feet, demanding love and attention and affection. He was the best. They bring so much joy, so much love into our lives. When I think about what Kristi Noem did, I think about my dogs. I think about all the dogs I see walking around. And my question is, why am I watching someone on a Sunday show who's not a credible national figure, will never be the vice president of the United States, who frankly should be in an institution, talk about anything?
You wrote in your recent book, No Going Back, about shooting your dog, Cricket. Of course, the blowback was intense there. Do you think that sharing that anecdote, whether fairly or unfairly, cost you a shot at being his vice president?
You know, I would say that was a story from 20 years ago about me protecting my children from a vicious animal. So, you know, we've covered that, and any mom in those situations, when you have an animal that's viciously killing livestock and attacking people, it's a tough decision.
One of the things I had said about Sarah Palin right from the very beginning, from the first moments I engaged with her, when I learned that she knew nothing about anything, was how dishonest she was. If you asked her, "Where is the sky?" she would point down. And that type of lying, fabulism, fantasy is certainly a disorder. You don't want somebody like that in a position of public responsibility. Kristi Noem made up a meeting with Kim Jong-un. Let's go back and watch her account of this.
I've traveled the world and I visited with world leaders, and some of that is referenced in the book, and this anecdote is something that when it was brought to my attention, we made some changes, and when the book's released, we'll do all that we can to see that is reflected.
Okay. Well, I'm asking about that specifically because you made the point to bring him up twice and that he was a little tyrant.
Do you have a question for me, Margaret?
The stupidity of it, the idiocy of it is mind-melting. And yet, there she is on a national news show trying to what? The entire interview should have been one thing. What's wrong with you? Because this is real life. This is the Russian dictator coming to meet Kim Jong-un. Oh, and look at all the happy children. Does it remind you of anything? This is what a cult of personality looks like. And understand something. Those children, those people, they are slaves. And understand something else. In a democratic society, we rightly and justly teach our children to hate war, to despise it. Churchill talked about this. Only an insane person would stoke war, would want it, would welcome it. And certainly in a democratic society, if a politician was to run saying, let's wage war, he or she would be rejected. But what about the countries like Russia and North Korea that tell their children there is no higher purpose, no greater glory than dying for the motherland or the fatherland, than to kill, to be martyred? It's important for Americans to appreciate that this man, Putin, has kidnapped tens of thousands of children. It's not a script from The Handmaid's Tale, it's real life. More than that, there are more Russian dead than there were Americans in World War II in a war in Europe. There were many people who could have been on television, but Kristi Noem, there she was. She is an avatar of a national sickness that tolerates our sickest and most depraved people filling high political office. This twisted woman should be in an institution, not in the governor's office, even in a state like South Dakota. Let me also applaud the sovereign nations of the Native American tribes who have banned this wretched woman from their reservation land, from their sovereign territory, because of her unworthiness, because of her lying, because of her smearing of them. What a pathetic, malignant, cruel woman. And in the end, who cares what she says or thinks about anything? Her time in office will soon be over, and then America can be rid of her from the public stage. That's what I call a win-win. Let's talk about another disgrace. A Navy admiral turned vicious extremist congressman who was once the White House doctor, apparently when he wasn't fall down drunk.
Those drugs are out there. They treat the cognition part of it. They try to, make it where he can think straighter and he's not lost and confused as much. And then there's drugs that actually just increase alertness, like Adderall and other types of amphetamine type drugs, maybe Provigil, things like that. And then there's a host of drugs that try to take the agitated edge off of most of these cognitive disorders. So I feel like they're probably giving him a little bit of all of this. They just have to get it just right. They all have different times of onset. They have different duration. They interact with each other. So it's a challenge, but I think they have no choice with what they're working with. They don't have much to work with.
Ronnie Jackson, the debased and disgraced Navy admiral. Can you imagine getting this letter, this email, which Ronnie Jackson got from the commander-in-chief that he served under? Let me put it up on the screen. This demonstrates the dignity of Barack Obama. What a rebuke. Reminding Ronnie Jackson he was a Navy admiral, the personal physician to the President of the United States. He was friends with Joe Biden. And look at him now. Another twisted, broken character. Let's listen to Lindsey Graham again talk about the president. Then,
he's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics.
Is that right?
He is as good a man as God ever created.
And now.
So the next time you hear the word felon in this election,
I think the felon in this election is Joe Biden. What he's doing to the country is criminal.
I wonder, who is it that's changed? Was it Joe Biden? Or maybe it was Lindsey Graham? I think it was Lindsey Graham. And I think it was Ronnie Jackson. They have no character. They have no core. They have no values, except for power, spotlight, the applause, the whatever it is they get from feeling important when they walk into a cable news green room. Pathetic. And it's strangling the country. It's murdering our democracy. The ruthlessness of the ambitions, the craving for instant gratification, power now. We'll burn it all down. This weekend, Donald Trump speculated about how great it would be. He asked his friend, the wife beater, Dana White of the UFC, maybe it would be a great idea to have the migrants fight one another.
Dana, I have an idea for you to make a lot of money. You're going to go and start a new migrant fight league. Migrants, only migrants. And then at the end of the year, the champion migrant is going to fight your champion. And I hate to tell you, Dana, I think the migrant might win. That's how tough they are.
They could be put into cages, maybe, and then released into stadiums. They could fight for the death. Maybe teams with knives and axes in the middle. What about releasing a tiger or a grizzly bear? This is sick. It's wrong. And it's un-American. And the fact that Donald Trump has found a crowd to cheer for his sick ravings is an indictment of the character of that crowd, not the country. And the rest of the country best wake up to the rottenness of that crowd. Despotic, a mob, a contagion set loose where those people will kill or dream of it. Because why? They're enthralled to the sickest man leading the worst cause since the Confederacy. And today is the second anniversary of the loss of a right that Americans had that's gone, taken by a radical Supreme Court. And here is the question 2 years on from the stripping of the abortion right in an unprecedented fashion, because the Supreme Court has only ever expanded rights. It's never taken away a right once granted. Yet, that's what it did. And let me ask a question. Are the extremists satisfied? Like a hungry bear, well fed? Are they ready to rest? They are not. They want more. And so all over the country, a curtain has dropped around the states where extremists control the legislatures. And in those states now imprisoned are poor black women, poor white women, denied basic reproductive health care and personal bodily autonomy and liberty. And the extremists want to take more. They're coming for IUDs. They're coming for birth control. They're coming into the hospital room, into the delivery room, into the bedroom. They're hanging the 10 Commandments on the wall in Louisiana schoolrooms. The problem, though, with one of the lowest literacy rates in the country, will any of the young children be able to even read the extremism, understand it, appreciate the purpose? Those 10 Commandments are an expression of devoutness. They're an assertion of political power and extremism. It's awful, and it's un-American. And they're coming for more. They're coming to take more. Brown versus the Board of Education is on the ballot. It's all on the ballot. So who does Kristi Noem think should ride shotgun with Donald Trump? Well, in the end, her, of course. But we all know something about this sick woman. She's too sick even for a guy like Trump, who, even though he feels nothing for anyone or anything, his instinct for self-preservation is such that he appreciates keeping Kristi Noem away is like keeping a cancer at bay. This is the warning. 134 days to go. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is the warning. And I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.